explain all this weird, wild, crazy conspiracy stuff to the people you love most. Because that's what I've been trying to do for the past 10 years with no success.
I've been telling everybody that our government is shady, but every time I do, my family thinks I'm crazy. The hollow earth, UFOs, aliens invading, fluoride in the water, the swear skies daily. When I talk about these things, they think...
All right, welcome to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast live stream. I'm excited to be here with you guys. Watching, live streaming, please comment, subscribe, like, do all those things. Go check out our website, listen to our podcast. We have 38 episodes out, all fire. At least that's what the fans say. That's what our family says, the 15 of them that are on Patreon. Thank you so much for being there and subscribing. So today I'm going to be reading from Knowledge of the Higher Worlds and Its Attainment, an Esoteric Spiritualism Initiation by Rudolf Steiner. And this is going to be a little different than usual, because normally before I was interacting with you guys, I'm just going to read through this and give you guys my interpretation. So feel free to comment. Maybe I don't want to get too distracted with that, though. There's slumber in every human being faculties by means of which he can acquire for himself a knowledge of higher worlds. Mystics, Gnostics, Theosophists all speak of a world of soul and spirit, which for them is just as real as the world we see with our physical eyes and touch with our physical hands. So whenever you read ancient stories and there's this kind of like mystical sort of energy going on, or things are sort of serendipitous and anything can happen, that's kind of the vibe you get in the folklore, folk tales, fairy tales, things like that, where the lines between what is real and unreal are blurred. This is kind of like maybe the dream world as we would understand it today, but even daydreams can lead to this kind of thing. At every moment, the listener may say to himself, that of which they speak, I too can learn. If I develop within myself certain powers which today still slumber within me, there remains only one question: how to set to work to develop such faculties. For this purpose, they can only give advice who already possess such powers. As long as the human race has existed, there has always been a method of training, in the course of which individuals possessing these higher faculties gave instructions to others who were in search of them. Such a training, called occult esoteric training, and the instruction received therefrom is called esoteric teaching or spiritual science. Sorry, repeated itself there. This designation naturally awakens misunderstandings. The one who hears it may very easily be misled into the belief that this training is the concern of a special privileged class withholding its knowledge arbitrarily from its fellow creatures. He may even think that nothing of real importance lies behind such knowledge, for if it were a true knowledge, he is tempted to think, there would be no need of making a secret of it. We know that's not true, guys. It might be publicly imparted and its advantages made accessible to all. Those who have been initiated into the nature of this higher knowledge are not in the least surprised that the uninitiated should think so. For the secret of initiation can only be understood by those who have, to a certain degree, experienced this initiation into the higher knowledge of existence. The question may be raised, how then, under these circumstances, are the uninitiated to develop any human interest in this so-called esoteric knowledge? How and why are they to seek for something of whose nature they can form no idea? Such a question is based upon an entirely erroneous conception of the real nature of esoteric knowledge. There is, in truth, no difference between esoteric knowledge and all the rest of man's knowledge with proficiency. The esoteric knowledge is no more of a secret for the average human being than writing is a secret for those who have never learned it. Can all who seek the right way become esoteric students and even teachers? In one respect, only do the conditions here differ from those that apply to external knowledge and proficiency. The possibility of acquiring the art of writing may be withheld from someone through poverty or through the conditions of civilization into which he is born. But for the attainment of knowledge and proficiency in the higher worlds, there is no obstacle for those who earnestly seek them. So, what they're saying there, guys, is this information, although kept secret, is not unavailable to you, as you probably already know because you're listening to this podcast. So I love you for being here. Many believe that they must seek at one place or another the master of higher knowledge in order to receive enlightenment. Now, in the first place, whoever strives earnestly after higher knowledge will shun no exertion at the fear, no obstacle in his search for an initiate who can lead him to the higher knowledge of the world. On the other hand, everyone may be certain that initiation will find them under all circumstances if they give proof of an earnest and worthy endeavor to attain this knowledge. It is a natural law among all initiates to withhold no man the knowledge that is due him. But there is an equally natural law which lays down that no word of esoteric knowledge shall be imparted to anyone not qualified to receive it. And this is exactly why podcasting and YouTube, we're here, why it's so fucking cool is because you guys chose to be here. You chose to listen to this. So you're already making that step. You're already making the decision. All right. And the more strictly he observes these laws, the more perfect is an initiate. The bond of union embracing all initiates is spiritual and not external. But the two laws here mentioned form, as it were, strong clasps by which the component parts of this bond are held together. You may live in an intimate friendship with an intimate initiate, and yet a gap severs you from his or her essential self, so long as you have not become an initiate yourself. You may enjoy, in the fullest sense of the heart, the love of an initiate, yet he will only confide his knowledge to you when you are ripe for it. You may flatter him, you may torture him, nothing can induce him to betray anything to you as long as you, at the present stage of your evolution, are not competent to receive it into your soul in the right way. So do you understand what that means? It's that we can't force this kind of stuff on people who aren't ready for it, because we have to respect that everybody is on a different path. That's why I love putting the podcast out, because I don't know who's listening. I don't care. And the people who do get in touch with me are overwhelmingly positive. Like my man, shout out Sylvester and Sylvester Covarrubias is in the Patreon. These other guys, if you get in the Patreon, maybe I'll give you a shout out. But anyways, so back to the book here. So the methods by which a student is prepared for the reception of higher knowledge are minutely prescribed. The direction he is to take is traced with unfading, everlasting letters in the worlds of the spirit, where the initiates guard the higher secrets. In ancient times, interior to our history, the temples of the spirit were outwardly visible. Today, because our life has become so unspiritual, they are not found to be in the world visible to external sight. Yet, they are present spiritually everywhere, and all who seek may find them. Only within his own soul can a man find the means to unseal the lips of an initiate, and women too. He must develop within themselves certain faculties to a definite degree, and then the highest treasures of the spirit can become their own. They must begin with a certain fundamental attitude of soul. In spiritual science, this fundamental attitude is called the path of veneration, of devotion to truth and knowledge. Without this attitude, no one can become a student. The disposition shown in their childhood by subsequent students of higher knowledge is well known to the experienced in these matters. There are children who look up with religious awe to those whom they venerate, for such people have a respect which forbids them, even in the deepest recesses of their heart, to harbor any thought of criticism or opposition. Such children grow up into young men and women who feel happy when they are able to look up to anything that fills them with veneration. From the ranks of such children are recruited many students of higher knowledge. Have you ever paused outside the door of some venerated person? And have you, on your first visit, felt a religious awe as you pressed on the handle to enter the room for which you is a holy place? If so, a feeling has been manifested within you, which may be the germ of your future adherence to the path of knowledge. Some of you guys have heard me on podcasts a bunch and know the kind of the things I say over and over. Well, one of the people that I venerate very dearly, someone that I look up to, was my mentor Amos. Obviously, I lost touch with him. Maybe I can get back in touch with him. That's my mission. I gotta find it. I gotta get back in touch with him. See if he'll call me up for the podcast. But yeah, veneration, right? Respect. These are things that Rudolf Steiner's talking about. Back to what Rudolf Steiner's talking about. If so, a feeling has been manifested within you which may be the germ of your future adherence to the path of knowledge. It is a blessing for every human being in process of development to have such feelings upon which to build. Only it must not be thought that this disposition leads to submissiveness and slavery. That was once a childlike veneration for persons becomes later a veneration for truth and knowledge. Experience teaches that they can best hold their heads erect who have learnt to venerate where veneration is due. And veneration is always fitting when it flows from the depths of the heart. If we do not develop within ourselves this deeply rooted feeling that there is something higher than ourselves, we shall never find the strength to evolve to something higher. The initiate has only acquired the strength to lift his head to the heights of knowledge by guiding his hearts to the depths of veneration and devotion. The heights of the spirit can only be climbed by passing through the portals of humility. You can only acquire right knowledge when you have learnt to esteem it. Man has certainly the right to turn his eyes to the light, but he must first acquire this right. There are laws in this spiritual life, as in physical life. Rub a glass rod with the appropriate material, and it will become electric. That is, it will receive the power of attracting small bodies. This, in keeping with a law of nature, is known to all who have learnt a little physics. Similarly, acquaintances with the first principle of spiritual science show that every feeling of true devotion harbored in the soul develops a power which may, sooner or later, lead further on the path of knowledge. The student who is gifted with this feeling, or who is fortunate enough to have it inculcated in a suitable education, brings a great deal along with him when later in life he seeks admittance to higher knowledge. Failing such preparations, he will encounter difficulties at the very first step, unless he undertakes by rigorous self-education to create within himself this inner life of devotion. In our time, it is especially important that full attention be paid to this point. Our civilization tends towards more critical judgment and condemnation than towards devotion and selfless veneration. Our children already criticize far more than they worship, but every criticism, every adverse judgment passed disperses the power of the soul for the attainment of the higher knowledge. And we do this every day, you know. It's like when we talk about our lives and the power of positivity and all this stuff, what we're really saying is that if we don't worship our experience, if we don't worship the experience of being human and being here and being in the moment, then we'll lose sight of what's really important. I definitely have. And that's why I'm happy to be here with you guys on the YouTube live stream. If we do not wish to say anything against our civilization, there is no question here of leveling criticism against it. To this critical faculty, this self-conscious human judgment to test all we've had to pay for with a corresponding loss of higher knowledge of spiritual life. It must be emphasized that the higher knowledge is not concerned with the veneration of persons, but the veneration of truth and knowledge. Now, the one thing that everyone must acknowledge is the difficulty for those involved in the external civilization of our time to advance to the knowledge of the higher worlds. They can only do so if they work energetically at themselves. At a time when the conditions of material life were simpler, the attainment of spiritual knowledge was also easier. Objects of veneration and worship stood out in clearer relief from the ordinary things of the world. Epoch of criticism, an epoch of criticism, ideals are lowered. Other feelings take the place of veneration, respect, adoration, and wonder. Our own age thrusts these inner feelings further and further into the background so that they can only be conveyed to man through his everyday life in a very small degree. Whoever seeks higher knowledge must create it for himself. He must instill it into his soul. It cannot be done by study. It can only be done through life. Whoever, therefore, wishes to become a student of knowledge must assiduously cultivate this inner life of devotion everywhere in his or her environment and his or her experience. They must seek motives of admiration and homage. If I meet a person and blame them for their shortcomings, I rob myself of power to attain higher knowledge. But if I try to enter lovingly into their merits, I gather such power. The student must continually be intent upon following this advice. The spiritually experienced know how much they owe to the circumstance that in face of all things, they ever again turn to the good and without adverse judgment. Withhold adverse judgment as well. But this must not remain an external rule of life. Rather, it must take possession of our innermost soul. Man has it in his power to perfect himself. Sorry, I keep getting mixed up on the pronouns. People have it in their power to perfect themselves and in time completely to transform themselves. But this transformation must take place in their innermost self. In their thought life, it is not enough that I show respect only to my outward bearing. I must have respect in my thoughts. The student must begin absorbing this devotion into this thought life. They must be wary of thoughts of disrespect, adverse criticism existing in their consciousness, and they must endeavor straight away to cultivate thoughts of devotion. So what does that really mean? That means when you're sitting there and you're asking yourself, like, you know, well, this person could have did this and this. Stop. What are you doing? Think about yourself. Don't worry about other people. Don't concern yourself with the judgments of how other people are living their lives. If they come into yours, ask them how they're doing. Be present in the moment. Ask them how they are. But don't try to control. Respect that other people are on their own place, their own point in their journey. Yes, Sylvester, you should buy this book. I'm glad you like it. Rudolf Steiner is the author. He is a lecturer, very wise man. I believe he was born in the 1800s, maybe? Yeah, 1861 to 1925. Rudolf Steiner, born February 25th, 1861, in Mirakurli, Austria-Hungary, died 30, March 1925, in Dornach, Switzerland. March 30th. I thought he died when he was 30. Oops. Was an Austrian philosopher, literary scholar, educator, artist, playwright, social thinker, and esotericist. He was the founder of anthroposophy, Waldorf education, biodynamic agriculture, anthroposophical medicine, and the new artistic form of eurythmy. What's eurythmy? I don't know. All right. Well, back to the page 11 where we were at. Every moment that we set ourselves to discover in our consciousness whatever there remains in of adverse, disparaging, and critical judgment of the world and of life, every such moment brings us nearer to knowledge, higher knowledge. And what is he saying there? Because I kind of confused myself when I read it. So I guess he's saying that we have to set ourselves to discover in our consciousness whatever remains in it of these negative thoughts of the world and life, because those moments bring us nearer to higher knowledge. So I guess he's saying we need to analyze why we have these hang-ups in our life and why we're associating negatively to certain things in our life. And this kind of connects to some things I've learned from the Tony Robbins Personal Power Seminar, which is like, yeah, you have to understand where your emotional associations are, because those are the things that can really set you back. All right. We rise rapidly when we fill our consciousness in such moments with thoughts evoking us in admiration, respect, and veneration for the world and for life. So raise yourself up by veneration. Appreciate your place in this universe. Understand that you came here on this earth for a purpose. Love yourself for that. That's what they mean. And through that, you'll find higher knowledge. And be grateful that you're here, man. Be grateful that you're here, ladies. Be grateful that you're here to take part in this process of learning. A human being standing before them now presents a new and different aspect. Of course, this rule of life alone will not yet enable him or them to see, for instance, what is described as the human aura, because for this still higher training is necessary. But they can rise to this higher training if they have previously undergone a rigorous training in devotion. Devotion is the key. Love yourself, love the world around you, love the people around you. Make way for love in every moment. That's the key. And loving yourself isn't just like, oh, yeah, I feel good. Loving yourself is like, fuck, I gotta fix my transmission. I gotta do that. Loving yourself is, I gotta pay that bill. I gotta do that. Loving yourself is, I gotta make some food. I gotta cook a meal for myself that maybe is a little cheaper so I can save money because I'm loving myself and I know that this is fitting my higher purpose. Don't fall into indulgences. Don't fall into impulses. Love yourself. Take care of yourself. Loving yourself doesn't mean just indulging. Loving yourself means taking the time and space that you need to grow. Loving yourself is the key. Noiseless and unnoticed by the outer world is the treading of the path of knowledge. No change need be noticed in the student. He performs his duties as hitherto. They attend to their business as before. The transformation goes on only in the inner part of the soul, hidden from outward sight. At first, their entire life is flooded by this basic feeling of devotion for everything which is truly venerable. Their entire soul life finds in this fundamental feeling its pivot. Just as the sun rays vivify everything living, so does reverence in the student vivify all feelings of the soul. Study the spiritual world around you. It is not easy at first to believe that feelings like reverence and respect have anything to do with cognition. This is due to the fact that we are inclined to set cognition aside as a faculty by itself, one that stands in no relation to what otherwise occurs in the soul. In so thinking, we do not bear in mind what it is the soul which exercises the faculty of cognition, and feelings are for the soul what food is for the body. If we give the body stones in place of bread, its activity will cease. It is the same with the soul. Veneration, homage, devotion are like nutriment, making it healthy and strong, especially strong for the activity of cognition. Disrespect, antipathy, underestimation of what deserves recognition, all of those things exert a paralyzing and withering effect on this faculty of cognition. Your intelligence is directly connected to your spiritual health because you, as a spiritual being, are in this spiritual universe. All of the knowledge, all the numbers, all the words, everything is just light. It's there. You're connected to it. So if your soul is unhealthy, if those batteries are low, if your circuits are all rusted up, you got to repair. Don't be living with these negative, corrosive feelings that take away from that spiritual path that we are all on. Some people, they lose sight of that. Some people live their whole life without even knowing it. Some people devote themselves to something that doesn't truly fulfill their spiritual life. Some people think they have it all figured out and they're about to die. And they realize, I wasted my life. Don't be that person. Don't be that soul. Wake up right now. Take part in the now, right now. Let's get back to the book. All right. A soul which harbors feelings of reverence and devotion produces a change in its aura. Certain spiritual colorings, as they may be called, yellow, red, brown, red in tone, vanish and are replaced by blue-red tints. Thereby, the cognitional faculty is ripened. It receives intelligence of facts in its environment of which it had hitherto no idea. Hitherto, for those who aren't aware, it means before. Reverence awakens in the soul of a sympathetic power through which we attract qualities in the beings around us which would otherwise remain concealed. The power obtained through devotion can be rendered still more effective when the life of feeling is enriched by yet another quality. This consists in giving oneself up less and less to impressions of the outer world and to develop instead a vivid inner life. A person who darts from one impression of the outer world to the other, who constantly seeks distraction, cannot find the way to higher knowledge. The student must not blunt himself to the outer world. So I can already tell some people are like, what is this about? I want to get to the higher knowledge. I want to do the higher. I want to Tartaria, pyramids, aliens, talk about the higher knowledge. There is a foundation that must be built to hold up these really, really, really lofty ideas. So that's what we're doing with Rudolf Steiner here, folks. My man Sylvester's in the chat. He's a patron. If you guys want to check out some exclusive content, go to patreon.com. I'm going to be doing these book readings daily. If there's a book that you guys want me to read or a topic you want to know about, just say it in the chat, DM me, hit me up at My Family Thinks I'm Crazy on Instagram. I'd love to hear you. All right. What can we do? Inner tranquility. At the very beginning of this course, the student is directed to the path of veneration and the development of the inner life. Spiritual science also now gives them practical rules by observing which they may tread that path and develop that inner life. These practical rules have no arbitrary origin. They rest upon ancient experience and ancient wisdom. They are given out in the same manner, wheresoever the ways to higher knowledge are indicated. All true teachers of the spiritual life are in agreement as to the substance of these rules, even though they do not always clothe them in the same words. Right? Everybody's pattern, everybody's language, everybody's overlay, everyone's cultural matrix is a little different. But we're all talking about the same thing. So Rudolf Steiner, he's one of many. He's who jives with me. If this doesn't jive with you, there's a lot more people in store. I'm going to be reading awesome books on this live stream every day. I'm going to do this every day. 1 hour every day. We're 31 minutes in, probably 45 minutes today. I have to go, but let's keep going through this book. Where do I have to go? Going out tonight. My co-host band is performing. It's going to be fun. No teacher of the spiritual life wishes to establish a mastery over other persons by means of such rules. He would not tamper with anyone's independence. Indeed, none respect and cherish human independence more than the spiritually experienced. It was stated in the preceding pages that the bond of union embracing all initiates is spiritual, and that two laws form, as it were, clasps by which the component parts of this bond are held together. Whenever the initiate leaves their enclosed spiritual sphere and steps forth before the world, they must immediately take a third law into account. It is this: adapt each one of your actions and frame each one of your words in such a way that you infringe upon no one's free will. Now, this is something that I really need to learn. Rob B, you're in Brantford. If you want to come to the show tonight, go to the Cellar in Hamden, my man. I don't know the street, but that's you probably look that up or just email me and I'll give you the address. All right. Did you say live stream? What did I call it? A podcast? All right. That was an interesting rule, though, here. Adapt each one of your actions and frame each one of your words in such a way that you infringe upon no one's free will. Because when we're on this spiritual path, like I've been saying throughout this whole thing, we have to respect where others are. And that's why these things have always been esoteric, because it's an extremely personal thing to take on the initiation towards higher knowledge, to take the path towards higher knowledge. You got to be intimate with yourself. You have to love yourself. You got to feel yourself. You got to know yourself. If you don't, you're going to get confused. And you know what else is confusing? When someone who also doesn't know tries to tell you how to live your life spiritually. So don't listen to me. Listen to your heart. Listen to your intuition. And if something I say can help you along your journey, then great. That's why I'm here. Because I am not here to impose on your free will. This is Rudolf Steiner's book. I'm benefiting so much from reading this out loud. And I hope anybody who hears this can benefit too. But I'm going to keep doing this because I'm on a positivity reading kick right now. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling Great. And we're going to play. I'm feeling so good. I'm going to play
We're
this.
coming out the box like fucking savages with fucking loincloths on and fucking thorns on our head. We don't give a fuck.
We don't give a fuck. You hear me? That's right. We don't give
Whatever
a
the
fuck.
fuck they called.
We don't give a fuck, whatever they're called. Where's the soundbite I'm looking for?
We're going to go out with a fucking bang like we usually do.
Yeah, we usually do go out with a fucking bang, Joey Diaz. What else do we do?
Yes, you got it.
That's Brody Stevens. Stephen Brody Stevens.
Yes, you got it.
Didn't mean to play that one. Anything else we got from Joey Diaz?
It's over. The week is over. The month is over. These motherfuckers that think they can stop us, it's over for those cocksuckers too.
It's over for those.
It's Friday. It's a
too.
beautiful fucking day to be alive. Nobody should be fucking even thinking of stopping you, including yourself.
That's right. Listen to Joey Diaz. Nobody can stop you. All right. One of the first of these rules can be expressed somewhat in the following words of our language. Provide for yourself moments of inner tranquility, and in these moments, learn to distinguish between the essential and the non-essential. It is said advisedly, expressed in the words of our language. Originally, all rules and teachings of spiritual science were expressed in a symbolic sign language, some understanding of which must be acquired before its whole meaning and scope can be realized. This understanding is dependent on the first step towards higher knowledge, and these steps result from the exact observation of such rules as are here given. For all who earnestly will, the path stands open to tread. Let me repeat that past sentence. For all who earnestly will, the path stands open to tread. If you will it, it will come. Simple in truth is the above rule concerning moments of inner tranquility. Equally simple is its observation, but it only achieves its purpose when it is observed in as earnest and strict a manner as it is in itself simple. How this rule is to be observed will, therefore, be explained without digression. The student must set aside a small part of his daily life in which to concern himself with something quite different from the objects of his daily occupation. The way also in which he occupies himself at such a time must differ entirely from the way in which he performs the rest of his daily duties. But this does not mean that what he does in the time thus set apart has no connection with his daily work. On the contrary, he will soon find that just these secluded moments, when sought in the right way, give him full power to perform his daily tasks. Nor must it be supposed that the observance of this rule will really encroach upon the time needed for the performance of their duties. Should anyone really have no more time at their disposal, 5 minutes a day will suffice. It all depends on the manner in which these 5 minutes are spent. During these periods, the student should rest himself entirely free from his or her workday life. Their thoughts and feelings should take on a different coloring. Their joys and sorrows, their cares, experience, and actions must pass in review before their soul, and they must adopt such a position that they may regard all their sundry experiences from a higher point of view. I think most people already kind of think about that. Like, this book was written at the turn of the century. Okay, this man was born in the 19th century. So for him, maybe people weren't as reflective as they are now. Maybe he wouldn't have this same advice for the people of the now generation. Because I think people do think a lot about their own sorrows and cares and joys and experiences. They review, but we need to review with the spiritual awareness that we're cultivating. So take 5 minutes after we're done with this. Okay, I'm going to do it too. I'm not going to do it. Maybe I'll do it live. you should sit here and watch me think for 5 minutes. Either way, when we're done, and everybody who's watching this, whether it's now live or in the future, you can take 5 minutes. Okay, if you need to just look at the clock and keep track, that's fine. I'm going to do it at 5 p.m. because that's when this is going to end, and then I'll know at 5:05 I'm done. So we're going to take 5 minutes and we're going to review our day, our life, our thoughts, our feelings, what's on your mind that day, and remember to venerate. Remember to love yourself. Remember to enjoy being here, being present, be grateful in that analysis, in the analyzation of your day, in your soul's review. Inject those positive feelings and really think about, oh shit, this isn't working out with this person, or this job isn't going the way I thought it would, or this, car isn't what it needs to be. All of these ways that you're describing the world around you, reevaluate and create an evaluation instead of a description. Say, well, this is how it is right now. Okay, this is how I want it to be. Where do those two meet? What do I need to do to take that action? And then boom, there's no more can't. It's just must. I must do it. And if you don't, that's a failure, but that's okay. You need to fail. Everybody fails. Don't beat yourself up, because when you can't do something, you got to say to yourself, I must. So if you're failing, there's a lot you must do. Stop telling yourself you can't. You can take 5 minutes and you can review your day, begin to inject some of that positivity, because they're trying to inject us with something real bad. We don't need to get into that on YouTube. Probably even shouldn't say the I word, but let's just, ordinary life. Let me see. Maybe there's some more here. We got a few minutes. I think that's a good place to leave it. But being tranquil, finding that inner tranquility that Rudolf Steiner is describing, that's essential, because once you begin to step out of the daily hustle, bustle, flow of life, gears turning, once you step out of that, even just for 5 minutes a day, you're going to reconnect with your soul. And if you're here, you're listening to this, that's probably something you're already part, you probably already have a connection with your soul to some degree. And fine tune that, be inside of that, understand that you're in control of your life, you're in control of your reality. If you want to see something happen, you can manifest it. If you want to believe in yourself to get to the next step, do it right now, because otherwise, where would you be? Sylvester Covarrubias. Oh, my feather. Where's what feather? This feather? Sylvester, shout out to you, my man. Thank you for being a part of the Patreon. I think Machinist Square Bear. Are you part of the Patreon too, bro? I don't remember. Maybe. If not, you guys should join. We'd love to have you there. Thanks again. Rob B, email me if you want to come to Jay's show tonight. Anyways, this has been fun. The book is called Knowledge of the Higher Worlds and Its Attainments, and we read from page 7 to page 16, and I kind of skipped around. But if you guys do happen to get the book, reach out to me. Let me know what you think, and I'm going to keep reading it if you're interested. I think I'll do another hour going through the next chapter, because I can already see that there's some cool chapters in here, the stages of initiation and other interesting things. And yeah, Rob B, if you pop in, dude, I'd love to meet you, bro. Please do. Wow. Okay. So that's it, folks. If you're joining in now, please go and start from the beginning and absorb all the information that I compiled there with our little reading, a little selection. And this is journalism. It's Creative Commons. YouTube, you can go fuck yourself if you think you can flag this for any reason. go fuck yourself. Anyways, thanks for listening to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. I love you guys all. Carry on. Keep your head up high. And have a great day.